welcome to Wake and Blake in the Morning. I'm your host, Blake.
I'm Blake.
Today we'll be discussing marijuana. Marijuana has many chemical effects on the body, both positive and negative. When inhaled, THC, a chemical in marijuana, reaches the brain within seconds and acts fast.
Faster than a cheetah.
This chemical is responsible for most of the physiological effects of marijuana. It increases one's heart rate and produces a feeling of euphoria by stimulating brain cells to release dopamine. Other effects of marijuana on the body include paranoia, hallucinations, trouble concentrating, decreased coordination, and decreased interest in completing tasks. However, marijuana does not have a direct effect on anxiety, and instead the effect varies depending on the individual's stimulus expectancies.
Hello, welcome to Talking with Blaker. Why is weed illegal? With this question we remember every 9th grade boys' lunchroom conversation. There's more than enough tinfoil hat-wearing jabronis on the internet who will answer this, perpetually stuck in 9th grade, drinking Monster by a Wawa with their friends, waiting for their mom to pick them up. They will say something to do with hemp production and cutting down trees to spite them, but the answer is far more complex than what can be said before lunch ends, or in the case of the internet guys, before your shift at the local Whole Foods begins, where the conversation will begin anew with a lady who doesn't eat gluten. It all starts in the first half of the 20th century, the middle school of modern civilization. At this time, the Western world was too busy hitting puberty and playing 20 questions over text messages trying to get to first base than to think about the benefits of legalization. This societal turmoil was especially visible in how drugs and vice were treated. There were two major push-pull factors concerning dank kush: prohibition and the world wars/economic struggles of the time. Prohibition was the push, with activists pushing for sobriety and purity. People were actively trying to prevent things such as rebellion and ruckus. Although alcohol was the focus, the mindset behind prohibition was very similar with banning weed. The pull factor, however, had a bit more to do with the historical context and anxieties of the time. You see, after things like World War I, people want to return to normalcy and get back to their daily lives. This societal angst-producing process also applies to things such as the Great Depression. Ultimately, people just want a job and a place to call home. They want to live without worrying that their way of life is at threat. This fear, combined with the less than racially tolerant attitude of the time and the association of weed with minorities, created an us versus them environment in the US. So, in the mind of your average Christian white Joe, things that are different from the perception of normal become a physical manifestation of everything that is a threat to their daily lives. Ultimately, one of the major lightning rods of the societal angst was weed, a flower that would corrupt your kids, drain your bank account, and make your wife have the pool boy over in October. This has been Talking with Blakert. Back to you, Blake.
Good morning. This is Action News at 9 with me, Blake Blakerson, here to bring you breaking news, San Fran. As it would appear, North Beach has been flooded with what appears to be hipsters, beats, and otherwise generally smelly people here. We go to Action News correspondent Blake B. Lake, live on the scene.
Thanks, Blake. We're here in North Beach, San Francisco, where there are hundreds, thousands, maybe even dozens of men and women in all sorts of black sweaters and striped clothing. Everywhere you look, there are a variety of interesting characters, as well as a few crowd favorites here to soak in the good vibes. Later tonight, we'll feature an improv concert by the Kingston Trio, immediately following the drum circle arrangement and a poetry slam.
Wow, that sounds pretty hectic, Blake. We're receiving word from city officials that the police do not currently feel it necessary to intervene, though they are equipped to handle any disturbances of the peace. Let's go live to the phones. Hello, caller?
Hi, hello. Big fan of the show. I was just walking through the city, minding my own business, getting a corn dog, when all of a sudden this disgusting skunk smell assaulted me on the streets. I was mortified, terrified even.
Sounds like you were pretty shaken up.
I was, Blake. I just don't know what those goons are capable of. What if my kids are exposed to this filth? I can't believe the government would stand for this. I want them imprisoned, I want them fined, and I want my little Blake at home to know that this isn't appropriate for upstanding citizens like ourselves.
Valid points, caller. We'll see what President Truman has to say about this in the near future, I'm sure. We're actually getting news now that the Beats, as they've been referred to, have begun protesting a local spelling bee, calling for letter equality and attempting to dismantle the sexist common space by appropriating the free vocal platforms of their conformist brainwashed society. We'll go live to a scene after a brief break from our sponsors. Thanks for tuning in, San Fran.
Have you ever experienced a need for medical marijuana and not been capable of getting any? Well, this is a common occurrence within America. We need this to be fixed. However, things seem to be going in the opposite direction. The federal government wants to take this much-needed medical marijuana away from us. Luckily for us, the state of California has decided to stand up and legalize medical marijuana. Without the state of California, marijuana would not be medically available to use the way it is now. At this point in time, we have medical marijuana available in almost half of the 50 states, and there are currently a few places throughout the United States that have legalized the recreational use of marijuana. There have been studies done in the past by the Institute of Medicine showing that marijuana does have a positive medical effect on the body. Marijuana has been proven to help with certain types of diseases and cancers. Marijuana has been used to help with glaucoma and nerve pain. It has also been prescribed to help with seizures and Crohn's disease. Marinol, which is THC, otherwise known as the main ingredient in marijuana, has now been moved from a Schedule 1 drug to a Schedule 3 drug, and this was so the drug had been more readily available for medical use. Now medical marijuana is legal within 23 states as of April 2015. This shows that our fight is worth it, and eventually will be heard within all 50 states.
Henry Jones reporting to you live from Ronson Hall. In 1970, the Controlled Substances Act was passed by the American government under President Richard Nixon. This act was established due to the ever-growing presence of drugs within American society. However, there was an underlying motive to this act. Today I'm going to focus on the classification of marijuana as a Class 1 narcotic and the social anxieties that came with it. Firstly, a little history on the drug itself. Marijuana up to and during the 1970s was a popular drug amongst young Americans and more commonly the colored parts of society. The drug was mainly used by the blacks and Hispanics during the 1940s, but had transgressed into an all-gender drug, and the whites within society thought that marijuana would in fact corrupt their children's generation. The most evident revelation of the Controlled Substances Act of 1970 being motivated by social anxieties was highlighted in a Senate hearing in 1974. Subcommittee Senator James Eastland said, "If the cannabis epidemic continues to spread at the rate of post-Berkeley period, we may find ourselves saddled with a large population of semi-zombies, of young people acutely afflicted by the amotivational syndrome." After research through the National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse, it was found that marijuana wasn't in fact that dangerous, but was still classified as a Class 1 narcotic under Part F of the Controlled Substances Act, as it supposedly held no medical value and had a greater chance of being an abuse drug.
Today, marijuana is still prominent in the international drug trade, although in recent years marijuana has decreased its imports from foreign countries and has increased its domestic production. Marijuana is grown naturally in many places all over the world. As for producing marijuana to be consumed, the United States, Colombia, Jamaica, Afghanistan, Mexico, Thailand, South Africa, and Nigeria are some of the main places it's cultivated. Importing marijuana is done through Canada and mainly through Mexico in a variety of different ways and routes. Mexican drug trafficking organizations are how mass amounts of marijuana are moved into the country. The Los Zetas, the Sinaloa, Tijuana, Juarez, and Gulf Cartel are among the biggest and most famous drug cartels in the world, to name a few, and they are all located next door down in Mexico.
Sinaloa has been fighting for a long time to gain access from the Gulf Cartel. The corridor is so important to the drug cartels because that's how they move their supplies.
OCL Cardenas needed more muscle. He had the idea to hire elite soldiers from the Mexican army to serve as the cartel's security force. The original recruits were trained for our Mexican allies by U.S. soldiers at Fort Benning, Georgia.
They've been trained in military tactics to the standard that we would train our military forces that are deployed in Iraq, for example.
Marijuana is directly related to gang violence in and out of the United States. Out of the United States and in Mexico, to be specific, crime is at its finest when speaking of the drug trade. Drug trafficking organizations take part in a wide range of illicit activities such as protection rackets, kidnapping, human smuggling, prostitution, oil and fuel theft, money laundering, weapon trafficking, and auto theft. As for the United States, we seem quite boring compared to our neighbors in crime related to the trade. In the United States, about 52% of all drug arrests were due to marijuana in 2012. The most popular crimes here consist of possession, sale, DWI, and GUI of marijuana. However, since marijuana has become medicinal, decriminalized, and even legal in certain states in America, crime rates and arrests due to marijuana have decreased immensely since 2012.
In conclusion, marijuana is not dangerous, as it had originally been viewed.
cheese and a bagel. Have a glass of milk and an Eggo. I'm rocking PJs and no shirt. I smoke weed, eat yogurt. Enjoy the best things in your life, cause you ain't gonna get to live it twice. They say you waste time asleep, but I'm just trying to dream. Supposed to be in class, but I ain't going. Let's chill on the couch. See what's on the telly, girl. We won't be